In 1998, Nick Saban's MSU team upset Ohio State in Columbus, changing the trajectory of his career. 5 years later, John L. Smith lost by 10 in his first appearance at the Horseshoe. 21 years later, Jonathan Smith properly and perhaps fully fucked the dog. You're listening to Can't Read, Can't Write. Welcome back, everybody. We are here, and it is going to be a doozy this week on this podcast. Welcome back to another episode of Can't Read, Can't Write, the podcast that proves Spartans can talk. I'm Alex Plum, joined this week by Kevin Greck, making for a very full Dinks-only episode. Kevin, how you feeling?
Truly, finally, Dinks only. We've been weighed down too long by, dependent or folks with dependents. Now we can spread our wings. We can go to bed at whatever time we want. Nothing matters.
Nothing matters. No, nothing.
Lovely.
Nothing truly matters. This being proved ever so true by the football game that we all had to experience and survive. Really, survive might be the word we try to use and locate. If not, fuck the dog. Well, Michael Jones off this week and really living into his dependency. We are celebrating
not only
him.
Does he have kids, but he's doing like the most parental thing that one can do on the planet.
Yep.
You would think bringing kid home from hospital is the most parental thing, but I think the trip to Disney World is the most parental thing that you can do. Yeah.
Light your candles, folks, for Mike Jones, as he is absolutely got to be going through it right now, but we are T's and P's away for him and the great land of Florida. Anyway, thank you, of course, everyone, for listening, for tuning in this week, wherever you get your podcasts, whether that's online or if you're joining us on YouTube. 2 faces this week, not 3. If we could ask a small favor, we would ask that you please share the pod with Spartans in your life. Rate, review, subscribe, follow us on Twitter and Instagram. You can find us at Spartan_pod. Grateful that you're here. Kevin, would you walk us through the structure of this week's show?
Would be an honor, Alex. And if I may say, really well done with hosting duties so far. It's been very smooth. It's been by the numbers.
What a
way to start.
Well, thanks. And you didn't even give me a second crack at the intro, which, I think is the real hard part. The listeners don't appreciate this, but what would you say on average, Greg? We have to, it's like 10, 15 minutes of Mike just slurring his way through the cold open most weeks.
Oftentimes there's tears, there's apologies, there's bargaining, but this week, first try, right to it, like did not have to waste all of our lives going through that. And for that, I will always appreciate you, Alex Plum. But let's talk about the structure of the show today. It begins on the green wall, where football always leads, as it does indeed this week. A loss to Ohio State that it would seem that we have some feelings about. From there, though, we will also talk about some other top 5 programs on campus. Women's soccer, of course, the #1 team in the land. And the hockey team is in action this week. So we need to cover that a little bit. From there, we'll go off Grand River to talk about things, whatever is on here. We'll preview the Oregon Ducks.
Ooh.
And then we will, as always, take your Twitter and or email questions.
Well, look at that. All right, well, let's not beat around the bush. Let's jump behind this green wall. And indeed, football did not lead this week, at least in terms of the score. 38-7, the loss at home against Ohio State. Not what you want, not what you want to experience. Not pleasant.
Yeah. Let me just ask you this right off the bat, Plum. Do you believe in program wins? Do you believe in quality losses? Let me ask that question. No.
I mean, I think it's possible to learn something, and I think, but you can learn in wins. So We don't need to lose to learn.
And that would be my preference.
Right.
It would be to learn via a win over a loss.
Right.
I think it's been well known and documented that this is the highest T count podcast in all of MSU podcastery. That's been said a lot.
Many times. Published.
Twitter. And we will not indulge in a quality loss, which is why I do think, as much as there is, I think you could find reasons to be optimistic about this game, and we'll talk about those.
Yep.
Overall, I was there in the building at the end of the fourth quarter, and let me tell you, that place was scarlet and gray, top to bottom. It was embarrassing, and it was demoralizing. When the cheer team was starting to go green, go white, or I think it was MSU in stadium cheer. The Ohio State faithful just drowned it out with their O's and their H's, which was just, they have the ugliest fan base.
They're not well, look at their coach, and again, and I point this out every year, annually, folks might say, Ryan Day's eyebrows are criminally far apart. I mean, they're not, it's not biological. The tweezing that his wife, girlfriend, mistress, daughter, I don't care who's doing it. It's not good, and they shouldn't be allowed to go on. So if
you're
that's
saying
what they
living
have,
in this case, of course.
However, I'm going to let the listener determine what that is, but it's unforgivable. And more to the point, if that's who's leading the program, of course, the rest of that fan base is going to look unkempt and brutish. So, well, the Buckeyes' 9th straight win over Michigan State. Not my favorite statistic. A combined score, by the way, that record, 358 to 84 points.
Jesus. Oh, my God. Oh.
What are you talking about?
Okay. Although I will say, we already agreed we're not trafficking in quality losses. This was a game, I think, in the first half that was competitive. There have been games, 100%. And even games where MSU is nationally ranked going into the Ohio State game, and it's just a boat racing. It's over in the first 5 minutes. That is not the tale of this game. There's frustrations, and we'll get into all of those about what the offense was doing. There's that, chicken wing, interception going on. Jack Velling did. I don't know what that was about. Why you transfer here? You're supposed to be like the number one target. He's just like, just like riverboat captaining out here, and the ball pops free. There's a scoring opportunity gone. You go for it on 4th down, what did you think about that call?
No, I think that's the right decision. So the play call, I think, was right. Big props. I think Sheehan said this in his podcast. You're not going to beat Ohio State on field goals. So you're at home, 4th and 1, make the money play. What we can talk about is Aiden Child's decision to just stand up and just kind of gently wave and smile. And then kind of very, very politely kind of try to step politely over.
Just like, hey, can I get this first down from you guys? Just for a little second? Just a little first down?
Just gonna scooch on. So that didn't work. That's not great.
Maybe that's the Midwestern kind of seeping in on him a little bit too much. I thought we got this West Coast, fiery quarterback, but now already he's like, let me get past you there.
Not good. No, I think you're right. I mean, 24-7 at the half doesn't, to my mind, doesn't do justice to how the first half felt. Right? 10-7. Really, I mean, if anything, you really are looking at what you should be looking at maybe is, I don't know, 21-14. I mean, it's more happens there if a couple very key things don't take place. And again, as we've talked about in this podcast, everything is contextual. So that fumble, or that not getting the 4th and 1 there, later on the fumble on the missed face mask, those things not happening. We've got at least 7, maybe 14 more points. And that's a remarkably different game. Now, we may still have the same second half. Okay. I mean, we did. I mean, the second half is a completely separate entity. But there's a question of morale there. There's a lot of other questions. So contextually, what we got in the second half, maybe that does lose us the game on a better first half, but I don't know.
Yeah, that Jeremiah Smith touchdown right at the end of the half was a kind of a gut punch and kind of was one of the first times. And I want to reiterate to our listeners, I think Jonathan Smith press conferences are worth tuning in for.
100%.
Like, they're pretty good. He's pretty honest. The questions are solid. If you listen to it on 1.25, everyone else is kind of chipmunky. And then certain members of the media from the free press sound like regular human speech at that frame speed. Chris Solari sounds like just
like
a regular person
adult,
talking.
Yeah.
Yes. but anyway, it's a good way to consume those press conferences. But he said the exact same thing. He didn't think that this was a team, and I would say particularly when MSU was on defense, that was outclassed. It just seemed like a team that, obviously can't make the mistakes that it made and still win the game. But when that Jeremiah Smith touchdown happened at the end of the second quarter, that's when it was like, that's right. We don't really stand a chance in this game.
Well, we don't have NFL talent. I mean, that's that one-handed catch right there in the corner. I mean, that's remarkable. It's just very good football. It's nice to see that kind of football. You want to be the team that has that kind of talent. We're not. But yeah, credit to him. And again, to your point, and I agree with you completely, credit to Jonathan Smith for calling that kind of thing out. But let's start with the offense. 246 yards for the offense yesterday, but 2 red zone turnovers, 3 overall, and only one touchdown. This is not going to go down in the annals of this team as anything very impressive to write home about for Aiden Childs, is it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's going to continue his dubious record of having like 4 times as many interceptions as touchdowns. That is going to continue to roll on.
That seems to be a theme.
I think we fear probably get worse this week against Oregon. Again, preview of the Ducks coming up.
Quack.
Quack, indeed. I think, though, that he played fairly well in maybe even the first 3 quarters. I don't think he threw an incomplete pass until the end of the second period.
Yep.
And then end of the third, things start. He starts getting back into hero ball. He's trying to push it too much.
Yep.
He throws one ball that should have been intercepted. He does he sails it on a what should be a quick little dip over the defender. And then he does throw that interception.
A weird pass, just like a weird screen pass. Like, where are you even throwing the ball?
I have no idea. But Smith said, and I agree with him, he's starting to get a little bit better. He was starting to put it out of bounds at times. I did notice that. But that was one where he just tried to kind of push it a little bit, and it obviously did not work out.
Do you think he knows what the words tush push mean? Have they not been working on that? I'm just confused as to how we get that 4th and 1 decision. Like, did he just, I mean, the kid has legs. We can agree that he's been able to motor his way out of sticky situations. In fact, he did yesterday. So what the fuck is up with that decision making?
I don't know. We need more tush pushing. Wouldn't you agree?
I mean, in life, generally.
Yeah. That's what I expected. So
the offensive line is obviously not the healthiest. There's very little depth. Is it that maybe this group of people just haven't played together with any relative frequency in a way that they could know how
it's worth calling out that we have like true freshman offensive linemen going up against seasoned Ohio State
NFL ready end rushers. Yes. Hello.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, and Child's getting sacked 4 times. Like, again, that's not sustainable. But again, if it's going to happen, I guess it's going to happen against Ohio State. And again, if it's going to happen, it's probably going to happen because you have, as you say, how many freshmen starting against these guys that are going to be playing in the big leagues. This isn't, this just doesn't brook confidence. We got the injury list before the game, more of the same. I don't know. We had 2 or 3 guys go out. I mean, there's probably at least a couple of injuries that we're going to be dealing with now for this week's game against Oregon.
Did we see Maverick Hansen come back?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, great.
I think he's going to be on the list next week.
It's only like one of our most experienced players on the entire team. That's fine. It's fine. We knew this though going into the season, and again because we're such a high T count podcast, we're not making excuses for this game. We're not trafficking in quality losses, but we knew that this was going to be a murderer's row, that this was the meat of the schedule. Yep. And I think at one point I said that my hope for Aiden Childs in these two games is just survive. And he's through one. He took some knocks. There's no doubt about it.
Yep.
He should have done a little bit more tush pushing, but he didn't. But he's still alive. And
that's true. Yeah. Which is more than he can say for almost any other member of the team. Mm-hmm. Before we go to the defense, I got to say, like, I just don't understand. I don't understand the injuries still. I don't understand the injuries still. How the fuck does it keep happening at a rate which is not reasonable? It's just not reasonable.
It's not.
There's nothing. I know there's nothing we can do about it, but there has to be something preventive that can be done. How? What?
It seems like we should be making them out of like metal or something. Like, can't they be cyborgs yet? Like, they're getting paid for this, right? Like,
they shouldn't. I mean, I guess maybe that's the point. Maybe you don't make money when you don't play. Can we do that?
NIL dependent
on like perform to pay.
You call it performance.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because frankly, like, we're not really using your name, image, and likeness if you're not out there doing the thing.
Right. No, you're not on TV. I'm not seeing your name. I'm not seeing your likeness.
So there we go. Maybe that's it. Yeah, but they still get the scholarship. We won't pull that. I'm trying to hold a middle ground here. There has to be some thing.
This seems reasonable to me, and I'm on board with it. What else was reasonable was the defense. We should talk about that, and then we should talk about officiating. Mm-hmm. I've got to be honest with you. I don't know if I said this on the podcast because I am a coward, but I didn't love all the transfer guys as captains. But Jordan Turner, everywhere in this game. Crazy. Should have had an interception or should have had a fumble recovery. Yep. Technically, Travion Henderson, garbage.
Yep.
Oh, a wrist is a forearm.
Oh, my limply wrist just gently grazed the grass.
Yeah. Played everywhere. The secondary had good hits in open space. I thought the linebackers did well. Things kind of fell off when it was out of hand. Yeah. But they kept this game. I mean, there was a big hold on the first drive for a field goal to kind of like keep the crowd and everyone in it. I think there's a lot to be excited about with this defense and its capabilities and what it's going to mean for the rest of the season. You know, as this team tries to earn itself a bowl game, it's going to need to stop other teams from scoring points.
Yep.
And I'm encouraged so far.
Yep. Yeah. No, I think you have to be. This was a statistic that I heard Matt Sheehan say on his podcast last night. Howard, Ohio State's quarterback, had only been pressured 11 times this season coming into this game. So in the first 3 games of the season, 11 pressures, which placed him ranked 158th in the country. And the point that Matt made was that there's only 137 FBS teams. Right. So there are backup quarterbacks getting pressured more often.
Getting more pressured than the starter.
Yeah. Which is just really lovely. And that, of course, was not the case tonight. I mean, so credit to the Michigan State defense, which did, and I think this is the point, especially in the first half, this felt like a more competitive experience. And I think if there is any optimism, and I think there maybe is a little bit, it is, for me, the defensive performance, particularly in the first half. I mean, by the second half, the wheels are off the bus completely. And you don't want them to completely blow up, but I don't know.
I've got a transition for us. I think we need to talk about officiating in this game.
Okay.
And in one way that the officials did well, I think, speaking of Will Howard pressures, is the pressure that he took straight to the chest at the end of the second quarter where he took a shot. Yeah. And I was just waiting for that flag to come out because it seems like anytime a quarterback coughs or is vaguely uncomfortable, it's like, Brady rule. Oh, give
Yep.
them 15 yards. Oh, poor baby quarterback, poor baby. No, he delivered that ball and then he got popped. Man,
I mean,
that was ball.
That was football. I would say that's a hard one to pull the flag out on. I think, I mean, watching that in real time, I just assumed it was coming, but I will say it was kind of textbook. You know, I mean, you didn't have the guy dropping the helmet. The timing was perfect. So the margins there that the referee, I think, would have had to throw the flag just wasn't there. But obviously, not to be outdone, the referee said, hold my beer, hold our beers.
Of course.
And we will be sure to ignore as many flagrant and well, let's get into it. So this face mask call. There's a lot of
big one.
This is the big
mask on Aiden Childs,
Aiden Childs,
leading or at least contributing to the fumble.
Right. Well, yes, exactly. This has been a remarkable 20. We started our 20. We're at their 20. Just an absolutely incredible 60-yard push down the field. Plays happening. Childs looks crisp. Now he's running for it. I think it was 3rd and 10 or 2nd and 10. Keeps the ball, sneaks through, is running, and then I don't know. One of the tackles from Ohio State just gets him, and his head. So he pulls him in such a way that Childs' head did 2 complete revolutions on his body. Good improper spelling of the double F. Can't read, can't write.
No, can't read, can't write.
That's good though. No, his head came off of his body, and the player was holding his head by the face mask. And then, of course, the ball was stripped. And that was, again, because it is impossible to maintain motor function when you have been decapitated. So impressive ability on the defense's part there for Ohio State. But more impressive, I think, was the umpire on the referee crew in pictures now, of course, staring right at the play and just had one thumb in his butt. And I don't know what his other hand was doing. It was off camera. I can speculate.
Yeah. We can speculate. And then there were more. There was a wrist is a forearm rule on the Travion Henderson fumble that was not to be a fumble. There was a lot of holding, I think, by the Ohio State offensive line. It was, and then is there any truth to the rumor that the referees were upset that the AV crew over at the Spartan Stadium decided to replay a lot of the misses by the refs?
I have to assume that is not true. Now, Jehu Kalkrick on Twitter or whatever broadcast tweet going around that the referees had called up to the booth to have as you say, Greg, the AV team stop replaying.
I believe he's with Spartan Radio. He's the official sideline correspondent for the radio broadcast.
What isn't likely is that the in-stadium game officials would have made that call. What is possible is that those plays were happening. I mean, because a lot of this happened in the first half. And so it is possible that the on and off field officials got together at the halftime and did their debrief and discussed it. And at the end came back and maybe the video review official or something made a comment. But if that's true, that is a significant problem. It's unethical. It's deeply problematic for officials to be putting the thumb on any kind of thing. This is part of you put on the stripes, you are subjecting yourself to that kind of feedback. These guys are all making 6 figures, working Big Ten football. Their decisions, while they don't win games or lose games, their decisions are critical. So being a referee means taking the criticism. And this officiating crew will absolutely, they've been criticized. Who comes to fuck what we say, but their scores will reflect this. I mean,
they're going to get rated for it.
They will not be getting, this is the kind of crew that doesn't get a postseason. And that's too bad because this is a good crew. If you're working Michigan State, Ohio State, you're going to be one of the better crews because they're not going to put shitty crews on an Ohio State game. The Big Ten obviously wants to promote Ohio State doing well. It is very hard not to wonder to what extent Ohio State gets these kinds of breaks and things. And again, I know I hate to say that, but it's very hard not to look at this and go, there was no home field advantage for Michigan State. And that is proved. We know that there's always a home field advantage. It is very difficult to maintain full neutrality. The home teams always get some deference. That's been statistically proved. You can look that up. So, but I can't point to a single instance of that in this game, to be sure. So it's hard. It's hard to wonder. It's hard not to just be a little bit. So yeah, yucky.
People are saying.
Yep.
People are saying. That's interesting that you think maybe there's a little Big Ten home cooking for its presumed conference favorite.
Which is like, I mean, I guess if you're going to pad it against the teams that weren't going to win anyway, so maybe it isn't a big deal, but like you could be a little bit more subtle. And I get people are like, well, the umpire, it's not the umpire's call to make that, the umpire is not primarily watching play action. They're looking at positions. They're looking at the line. And so they're not to follow the ball carrier, but I don't know. That's in your line of vision. Like you can't not see that. That's pretty good. That's pretty gratuitous. Let's talk about special teams. Cause we've said a lot of nice things about Ryan Eckley on this podcast, and I'd like to be able to continue to, but he had a real doozy this game, didn't he?
Yes, he did. He had a real raspberry straight out of bounds. Really messed up on this one and set Ohio State up. So sorry, Ryan, you have avoided our ire so far, but here we are. You need to be called out, and you deserve to be ordered, basically, I think, at this point.
More to the point, if that punt doesn't go 27 yards at that point in the second quarter, we maybe the defense is able to hold them, and now we're only 17-7, or maybe even 17-14. If you see how those two things change, we go into the half down 3. That's just again, we're probably still going to lose, but this is a very different conversation we're having, and we're all high on Giles, and we're high on the program, and we're high going, golly, we had the closest first half we've had in 9 fucking years. So
this sets me up to, I think, the most interesting conversation in all of this. Where do you think this team is and this program is generally? Again, high T count. We don't accept quality losses, want to win here. But do you think, I think at the beginning of the season, we circled Ohio State and Oregon and we said, forget it, write off, live through it. Here, we got through the first half of this game, and I think we both agree things should have looked really different. Probably the outcome was going to be the same one way or another, but it could have been a little bit trickier for them. Oregon has struggled at times this year, and we'll see what happens in that game. Does this encourage you both for the back half of the season, those games that we've circled as like, this is the time to go earn your bowl eligibility, including games against a ranked Indiana? Are you encouraged right now with the trajectory of this program?
Of course not. I think no. We had said at the start of the season what we expected were we expected to see progress. We expected to see progress game over game. So it's good that Jonathan Smith is seeing some of it in some of the players. The number of interceptions. I'm not faulting Charles for the fumble. For me, you get face mask. That's not a fumble. I don't care what the fucking statistic says. That's horse shit. That's on him. But the interceptions are on him. The overthrows are on him. It is stumbling blocks that we're placing in front of ourselves. I'm exhausted having to listen in post-game analysis to Nick Marsh say shit like, well, we just got to take accountability for our mistakes. Fuck off. Stop talking. Right. Stop fucking talking and do the goddamn thing. Play consistently. You're all making too much money.
And you are making money now.
To be doing anything other than groveling at the feet of the media for not being very good. Just say you're not good. Just say you're not good. Just say you are paying me and I'm not very good. And by the way, that happens. We've all been in jobs that we've not been good at, and yet we got paid still.
I had to tell Wendy's Dave Thomas himself that no, I was not very good at making the chili. And he was like, I was an orphan and I can do this better than you. And I was like, I know your whole story, Dave, and it doesn't make me feel better about making the chili that you were an orphan. And then he died.
He did.
So
He died,
anyway,
because of that bad chili you served him.
Yes.
I don't know. My point is that you asked me what I think on the trend. I mean, I think the back half of the season is, of course, going to look better. It couldn't not. God, I shouldn't have said that out loud.
It couldn't not. You heard it here.
You heard it here. It could not.
Can't right.
Double, triple negatives. I don't know. I mean, am I wrong? I mean, I guess, where are you at?
So I had the most fun thing about the fourth quarter to me is I got to meet Ring of Honor. That Mark D'Antoni got put in the Ring of Honor this week. I got to meet other Ring of Honor recipient Clinton Jones from the 1966 National Championship game, and I'm so glad that Michael Jones isn't here to be like, was he really a national champion? Because he would spend this time doing that, being like, was he really a national champion? Oh, Clinton Jones. I asked him this question. We had a lovely conversation. He spent a lot of time with me. I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
And he obviously taken second overall, I want to say, in the NFL draft or something like one with the
second overall. That's
Vikings.
Right, by the Vikings. That's right.
One, but also won the NFL championship with won a Super Bowl with the Vikings. So like he knows football, and he told me he likes the direction that this program is going. He likes being part of it. Apparently, a lot of the guys of this team are getting kind of re-involved right now, as they're sort of in their golden years, so to speak.
Yep.
And he said there's a lot of excitement around the program. He said he likes what he's seeing. It's just young guys making mistakes that they've got to clean up. And there's something here that we can look forward to in the future. So
cool. All right.
Nice. Well, nice meeting Clinton Jones.
Yeah. Well, maybe we'll let Clinton Jones' word be the last word. I know we don't want to go completely apoplectic, but we know we're gonna. Well, let's save Oregon. Let's head off football for a minute and talk about women's soccer, because I don't want to be all doom and gloom, but I think we're the word undefeated is carrying a lot of water. Right a lot of water. The Michigan State women went on the road on Thursday in Columbus, where they tied Ohio State. So again, better than getting absolutely shellacked. But good for them. Number 11, Ohio State, whatever the rankings, number 5, Michigan State, number 11, Ohio State. Ohio State in women's soccer particularly is always going to be.
They're MSU women's soccer is number 1 this week.
Oh, are we the coaches poll? Sure. Yep.
Yes. And the coaches poll. Yes.
So anyway, no, but still, like top 10, top 15 programs in soccer. There's very little gray room. So, but a draw at Ohio State, which I think is commendable. I think the second, we had an equalizer on that. So we actually came from behind, which is again on the road, a hard thing to do.
Was that the one that the goalie kicked the penalty kick on? That's right. Wild. How many? Wild. You've done a lot of women's soccer games.
Not rare.
How often does that happen?
Not rare, but you've got to practice for it, because if she doesn't sink that kick, right, you're in trouble, particularly if that ball is parried out or the goalkeeper retains possession, because then it's just a full sprint. And it's basically goalkeeper's going to punt that ball. And if the offense gets there first, goalie's out of the box. Now you're red card territory. You're waiting for the goalkeeper to make a bad decision, or a defender. So it can get messy quickly, but obviously she put that into the back of the net. Like, there was never a question. So good for her. And, but more confused, and I should say concerned, that we hosted Rutger today and at DeMartin Stadium, and the ladies were only able to bring them to a 1-1 draw. So this is our last 3 games are ending in draws. And so again, I'm okay, undefeated, but maybe, I don't know. I mean, I think, what are they at? Like 8-0-4 now, 8-0-3.
They've got a lot of draws. Yes.
It's a lot. No, I don't know.
And they were zipped at halftime too. The only scoring happened late in the game.
So again, a broken Rutger can be right twice a day, but it feels a little like the program is stalling. This should have been a convincing 3 or 4-0 victory over Rutgers. I'm not sure
at home with a team like Rutgers. I mean, the program is not accustomed to being number one overall.
There you go.
Do you think there's a possibility of like there's pressure that comes with this? I think we're going to talk about this again when it gets to the hockey preview in just a second here, but there's a lot of pressure that comes with that number one ranking. It's, they are back-to-back Big Ten championships champions.
Yep.
There is something to that. But the national acclaim and the national ranking, I think, for a team and a program that's not accustomed to that, probably a bit of a distraction.
Yep.
And, sometimes you'll hear Izzo be like, we needed a loss, or I think he's
all very used. All very used to that narrative framing.
Maybe there is something to that of like, someone beats you, you finally lose that undefeated streak. It's a lot like when the Warriors lost the fewest games in NBA regular season history, and then they did not have a very good postseason as a result. Like that, the undefeated mark and that number one become like a big part of the narrative and a big part of what you're playing for, and it weighs on you.
Yep.
So I will say, I want to put in a word. I made a promise to this podcast audience that I would go to a women's soccer game. I walked past one today. We didn't actually go in.
Very good.
Because we had a lot going on. But
that's not probably true.
Yeah, no, it's an exaggeration, of course, because we're dual income, no kids, and it's a Sunday. Like there's
100% right.
There's really no.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's the honesty that this pod deserves. Thank you.
It is. But the turnout, there were a lot of other dinks in that place. It was well attended.
Yep.
And it gets to the community here and the way that they are happy to support these types of programs, which I'm just thrilled with.
So you did a lot of heavy lifting for the hockey program. I know there's a little bit of here that you wanted to talk about. I just want to note for the record, if there are any listeners that we have who are familiar with the hockey program, who have connections to the hockey program, we would love to have anybody come on, guest host, frankly, take over the pod for a couple weeks, especially if football keeps trending this way. So I am unaware of anyone in my circle. I don't think I know anyone by name.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're truly desperate at this point for anyone or anything. So I'd give it my best.
Try? Yeah, why don't you give it a shot?
The rankings, preseason rankings came out this week for national hockey rankings. Your Michigan State Hockey Spartans are preseason number 4 in the country, and the Big Ten is well represented in the rankings. Minnesota is 6. The Wolverines are 7, and Wisconsin is 10. Really exciting. If this isn't on your radar already, last year, you'll recall, we started the season going to Boston College. This year, number 2 Boston College comes to Munn Ice Arena, not this week, but next week. In fact, this season starts Friday, Saturday. This week, we go on the road to Lake Superior, going to the Yoop, going to Raymond's old stomping grounds up there.
Dog.
So those are going to be massive games. I mean, if MSU makes it through that week, these first 2 games at Lake Superior, which I would expect them to, that is a huge top 5 matchup next week in Munn, Friday and Saturday night. So won't be too surprising to find out. This means that MSU is the number 1 ranked team in the Big Ten preseason coaches poll. I don't think that's ever happened. Like in the time that a Big Ten preseason coaches poll has existed, I don't believe MSU maybe has even been in the top 5.
Like, votes. Yeah, right.
Who knows? The more exciting thing is that there are 3 dudes on the preseason first team, and they're names that you would expect: Carson Dorwart, Isaac Howard, and of course Trey Augustine, who is the one unanimous selection on the team. I'm interested to see, though, all of the accolades, all of this, the pressure, kind of what we just talked about with the women's soccer team. How does this team respond to all of this? You're not the cheeky upstart anymore. You're not scrappy, like, oh, look at them. Now you've got it. What are you going to do to keep it? And that is the narrative this season that I'm so interested to follow.
Yeah, I think that's right. Very well said. And obviously, we're rooting for Adam Nightingale and the boys to continue to earn the plaudits and to live into the plaudits they've already earned. Such to the point that, I'm struck as I looked at the schedule here for the hockey team that they're pointing out that the games are not just held at Munn, but that they will be played particularly on the Ron Mason rink.
The Ron Mason rink at Munn Ice Arena.
Yeah, yes. A lot of ice in the title there. So, will that be brought to you by the Adam Nightingale Samboni? I mean, what does he get his?
Where does it end?
Where does it end?
Where does it end?
And the Tom Izzo coach's ancillary hall. I don't know what other things to name after whomst ever. So
in the can't read, can't write, trough pisser in the back. Like where are we?
Upsetting. Well, listen, friends, we want to give a shout out this week, as we do most weeks, to Mama's Mercantile and Exchange, the one and only Great Lake favorite, Grass Lake favorite that exists for residents of that region. Really, not just residents of that region, but really residents of all regions in this state. If you haven't been there before,
I understand now that Michigan's Great Lakes now aspire to be a grass lake because of Mama's Mercantile.
Yeah. Well, I heard they may soon be opening their first Chicago franchise. So if that's not true, then I will be corrected, probably with a text message very soon. Listen, if you haven't been there before, you need to get there, and you should go on a game day. Maybe like a game where we're going to get decimated by a bunch of quacking assholes from the West Coast. So if you're going to do that, there are specials, MSU game specials, the $15 Go Green Olive Burger. That's a half-pound locally raised beef, cheddar cheese, house-made olive sauce, lettuce served with fries and dipping sauce. They got $3 domestics. They've got the games on television. The sound will be up. $10 buffalo chicken dip, $8. This is like a menu. I don't know if we're going to read all of this, but my point is they've got options. Go when they're playing Michigan State. Go when the Lions are on. They got a $15 Honolulu burger. Great drink specials. They're right on the Washtenaw County, Jackson County border, just off 94, exit 153, Clear Lake Road. Go check them out. Mama's Mercantile and Exchange. And we are big, big fans of theirs.
Yeah. And the Lions are on Monday night tomorrow. Let's say you get two incomes, you get no kids. The Lions are on tomorrow night. Go. What are you doing if not going to Mama's Mercantile at Grass Lake? Like, do you have anything else going on? No.
Listen, you need to get a half-pound all beef burger dipped in the Honolulu blue paint. It's not even edible when it comes out, but it's not supposed to be, because you're going to take that home and you're going to admire it.
And you'll be like 15 $3 domestics in at that point. So you're not, you're going to be happy to huff that thing. And then just remind yourself that you're unburdened by children and you can do this.
And you can do this. Night. This is what your Mondays are for.
Everyone with kids is at home and sad and not eating a Honolulu burger and dead inside. I think dead inside is probably right.
That's the answer. Yeah. Well, we know Michael is whatever number of domestic he's on.
He's dead inside in line somewhere, just queuing up like a hot, sweaty idiot. Don't they have a hurricane going on down there?
I wouldn't have gone to Florida right now. It does not seem reasonable to me.
Now's the time to leave Florida. And this idiot's like, let's pack up and go there.
And they prepaid everything. So it's not like there's any discounts happening for them right now. Yeah. It's just got to be absolutely demoralizing. Just the worst. God,
I've never been happier to have two incomes and no kids. I gotta tell you.
Yeah. Here to that. What are you drinking? We got a little something, bourbon, little special bourbon. What is it?
Well, we were told to do number 24. I apparently already got into my 24 because it was so good.
So good.
So I'm making up for it with a Hemingway Rum Company barrel number 5, which is a delight. But you're actually drinking number 24.
I'm drinking number 24. This is it's a weeded bourbon, Mike Jones tells us. And it is produced by, and he said this would be appropriate to drink given the referee's performance of the week. It is Larceny bourbon. So well played. Cap doffed to Mr. Jones for that. And I got to say, completely palatable. I'm drinking it in glass on a cube of ice. It doesn't have any of the bite that our liquor did last week, which is, I can't remember what we drank last week, but it was another bourbon. Yep. This is much more mellow. I would say if you were looking for something eminently palatable, a bourbon with some friends, something that's just not going to kill you, this Larceny bourbon, fuck the refs, right? So yes, that'll be what we say about that. I don't know. Let's head off Grand River, Kevin. We have only a couple things to talk about this week. I am wondering what your perceptions are and whether you've thought much. I had never really thought about the University of Nevada at Las Vegas before, but had you?
Isn't that where Ricky White ended up?
So, and that's my point. You in fact
had the end of it. They come up every once in a while in basketball. They also came up this week because their starting quarterback, one Matt Slucka, which is, without it being like an actual unfortunate English word name, like Jake Butt, which is like that must have been hard. No wonder he turned out to be an athlete like Jake Butt. Matt Slucka is like one of the
it's big
least appealing names I think I've ever heard. He took his ball and he went home this week, announcing on Instagram or whatever that due to NIL issues, he's taking a red shirt. He's not playing anymore this season. There is conflicting reporting on this. I don't think we've gotten the final word on it. But Plum, I'm interested, when you saw this, what was your initial reaction?
My initial reaction was good for him. Again, I like a knee-jerk reaction. I like, generally, I like to default to the side of the underdog, the side of the marginalized, the dispossessed. In college athletics, that's always going to be the student athlete. That is how the structure has been stacked forever. So I will say that, in leaving, he surrenders what was left of the power that he had. So, I mean, I think there's a lot of reasons why you don't take your ball and go home there. One, you look like a baby. I mean, just the optics aren't good. Two, you probably fuck yourself over in future recruiting. What coach is going to want to have you now?
Well, he's already an old guy. He's already been at it for a while. It's not like he's got another 3 years to go play somewhere else.
And he's a ginger. I mean, he's just not getting credit in life already to begin with.
And his last name is Slucka. Jesus.
I just gotta say, the guy so that's my point. So the things are stacked against the guy, and he's making this decision. So I gotta say, I'm gonna doff the cap. Hat tip to you, my guy, Matt. Like, you're making a lot of really counter instinctive decisions, which tell me that you feel really, really fucking strongly about what they did. Now, Barry Odom, the coach for UNLV, released some very mealy-mouthed, asshole-ish statement written by some asshole lawyer who, of course, I respect everyone's right to an opinion, but the without full knowledge of the events, all I can say is I mean, just like saying nothing is frankly more helpful than saying that, because you're an imbecile, and frankly, you're just you should be embarrassed. So, so I don't know. Obviously, Matt claims that certain representations that were made to him around NIL compensation have not come to bear. We will never know, I'm sure, the particularities of what those were. But
yeah, this is going to be a he said, she said situation. I think where it's kind of landed is allegedly an assistant coach made certain representations that were not upheld by the NIL, because we're still in a situation where the schools aren't directly involved. The NIL collectives do one thing, and then the coaches are in another spot. And there is communication between the two of them as we understand it. But it is not like necessarily the coach says this, so it happens in the collective. We know that all too well from last season. So the program is saying in the media that it has made all of its NIL payments as required. He is saying that there were again, certain promises that were made by an assistant coach that were not upheld by the collective, somewhere in the order of like $100K of outstanding money. My question is, how do you get to week 3 without this being resolved? I guess like maybe Slucka thought he'd feel it out for a little bit in good faith and then call it at the end of his the last game before he would burn his red shirt. My question is like, if that's it, the initial reaction was, oh, some bigger program's trying to buy him, because his stats right now are not overwhelmingly great. Like, I don't think NFL teams are lining up to draft him.
No one cares about
the argument is this is his time to capitalize, and he should be doing that. My question is, are there other teams that want to get in line for that? I'm not so sure. Like, does an NIL collective at Florida State, we'll say Florida State might be in the market for a quarterback. Does Florida State want to get involved with a guy that, like, you know, he's so-so, and
yes and no.
If things aren't perfect, he hits the bricks?
Well, again, I think this is where you are clear about the representation that was made. This is, you got to let your SBS, your no be no. And by the way, Florida State, there's not recruiting out of UNLV for some 43-year-old red-haired quarterback. I mean, that's not what's happening in the world. So that's not the reality. If they're doing that, it is to get more depth in the position or to really work the scout team. I don't know what. So, and if that's the case, they don't care, you know, but that's my point. He's lost all of his bargaining power. So something is wrong here. But I will say and I agree with you. I'm surprised this hasn't resolved itself yet. A couple things. UNLV did just extend their membership. They're a charter member of the Mountain West. They've just extended that for another several years, while still somehow retaining the desire to become part of an autonomous Power 4 conference. Like, what are you fucking talking? What are you kidding?
We'd like to have our cake and eat it too. Thank you.
But that's my point. Like, UNL, no one even knows who you are. First, no one's ever heard of you. Frankly, people that live in Las Vegas don't know where you are. So this idea that you'd ever be part of the SEC or what's left of the Pac 1, you're out of your mind. It 100% never going to happen. And so to issue statements like that demonstrates to me a significant disconnect from reality for the administration in sports there. And that's got to trickle down to this program too, because whatever coach thinks about the situation, I can't imagine the delta was that big for this kid. If a coach in your coach room made this representation to the kid, just fucking honor it. Because now, how do you recruit players? Tell me, where are they going to get a guy out of the transfer portal? Certainly no NIL deal is going to be trustworthy. That's the kind of thing that you've got to think better on, because people are watching that shit. And so
it's the kind of sloppy stuff I would have expected to happen here, you know,
frankly, and in fact did many, many times. Well, as we reported on last week, Christ, the whole team almost fucking boycotted the game at Iowa. So good for them. And I would have championed them too. In fact, I would have liked nothing better than that game to have been forfeited, because we fucked the NIL dogs so damn hard. God, we were imbeciles, but we're not as stupid as UNLV. So
here.
Last thing we can say before we give you the Florida preview, quacky quack quack quack. Just I wanted to shout out Charlie Baker, absolute inept, fucking imbecile, really a dumb person, leading what has to be one of the dumbest organizations to ever exist in the world. Nothing more ineffectual, phones, than the NCAA. But I love this empty gesture. I just happened to come across it on Twitter this week of Charlie Baker issuing a statement. And I'm like, oh, Charlie Baker issues a statement like that he's resigning or that he agrees the NCAA shouldn't exist. No, just calling for congressional. I just can't with your fucking carrots. These are really great.
This is all I care about right now.
I know, and it's where you should.
For.
I'm talking too much, but just calling for congressional action on NIL. That was it. Just Charlie Baker, NCAA issues statement. Congress should take action on NIL. Period. How much money is he making? What are you talking about?
Yeah. And also, the obvious thing, and where this is all headed, and we all know it, is collective bargaining and a player agreement. Like, and everything that you do in the meantime is just spinning the wheels. And there's also, it will benefit the NCAA or whatever governing body eventually exists. No one's been able to explain to me why a collective bargaining agreement is worse than where we're at right now, and why these universities, because Charlie Baker, and I will always say this whenever the NCAA comes up, he represents the membership institutions. They want him to say this.
Yes.
And that includes our own.
Oh, yes.
And why we've decided, why these universities have decided that they're just going to let this stupid, even, I mean, not worse, better in some ways, but still very dumb situation continue, where Charlie's going to just go tweet something to Congress as if that's how the system works. God, it's so dumb. These institutions, I can't understand it, because it's not like the presidents make more money because football has more money.
Right.
So just make the right decision. Like, in the scope of these institutions, MSU's research budget is going to be closing in on $1 billion in the next couple of years. So football is nice. It's on TV. It's the front door. It's the front facing thing, but it's in dollars and cents. It's not that big a thing. So why are we letting it go on? And you get the back and forth. Just resolve this with a collective bargaining agreement.
It's not ever going. It probably will, because there won't be an option. It will have to soon. I'm more struck by the timing of this. There are no more votes to be had. The continuing resolution just got passed. Mike Johnson had to rely on a bunch of Democratic votes for it to happen. All of the members have been returned to their districts so they can campaign for the last month or so before they're all up for election again. Congress, right. There's no Congress
is
right
over.
Now. It's all done. It's all done. And then they come back for lame duck, where there's absolutely zero. They're so ineffectual already. Congress isn't going to fix it. They're incapable of even running themselves. So I think you've said the right thing, which is, this is what the member institutions want them to say. But my God, it is just vacuous and just useless. It's just Just say less. Just don't say anything. Saying nothing is better than saying absolutely that. All right. Very good.
It's not even accurate anymore.
It doesn't matter. No, just keep adding to it. Mike's watching this and he's absolutely erect with rage. So bring us into Oregon. Let's take a trip down.
Let's talk about the Ducks, shall we? When I say the Ducks, Plum, let me ask you this. What's the first thing when you hear about Ducks, what do you think of first?
I think of Emilio Estevez. I will always think of Emilio Estevez when I think of Ducks.
Quack. Yeah. I think of feeding the ducks. That's where I started with this, was isn't it kind of nice? There's like an institutional thing of like, we feed the ducks. And then I remembered the ducks are so dumb that they like to eat bread the most, and bread hurts them. And we're supposed to help them by giving them rice or whatever.
Yep.
God, ducks are stupid. And then I started looking up more duck stuff, and ducks are even worse than I understood already. Like, I think everyone already knows the unpleasantness around duck reproduction, right? There's a weird male organ situation where it's all corkscrewy, and then
that should go in the Chiron, actually.
Yes, duck corkscrew situation is something that I'll be typing. I think maybe this is where you're headed with it, but duck reproduction is violent, and the corkscrew situation is not helping anyone in that. It's very, very violent. In fact, it evolved to facilitate the violence, but. Which is we'll say, I guess will be is charitable or non-consensual, most duck reproduction. It gets worse though.
Yeah.
If that's at all possible. It's also murderous. Apparently it's not uncommon for the male duck in the course of reproduction attempts to drown the female duck, which is just like the worst situation that I've ever heard of, which Gets even worse because apparently, and I only checked this in two sources, and it's the internet, and it's so vile that maybe it's incorrect, that ducks can get a taste for duck blood and become cannibalistic over time as well. So like ducks are stupid. Ducks are the worst. Why are we putting ducks on a pedestal? I get that they quack and they walk around and they have their little webbed feet and we like that. But only 60% of ducklings make it to maturity, which you might think like, oh, it's nature, 60%. Maybe that's okay, actually. Yeah, that's 50 days. 40% of ducklings die in the first 50 days. And that doesn't even include the ducklings that are sold at Tractor Supply, which should be illegal because ducks are not pets and ducks are stupid and they shouldn't be involved in any kind of polite society. So we didn't even get into gastroliths, which is rocks that they eat so that they can digest. They can't even digest their own stuff. They need rocks to help with it. Dumb, murderous, rapist animals. We don't care for them. They have a weird corkscrew situation. No, thank you.
DuckTales. Ooh, do. That's really, it really puts children's cartoons in a whole new light, doesn't it?
Let me ask you this: DuckTales or Darkwing Duck? Where do you fall?
Frankly, I don't know if I can endorse either without worrying about getting on some offender registry. So,
okay.
Yep. But Darkwing, I guess, if I had to choose.
Yeah. That's
right.
Anyway, ducks.
So that's what we have to look forward to. Basically, a non-consensual violent experience at the hand of these cannibalistic, blood-craved, corkscrew penis-holding Oregon football program. I'm not excited for this.
I like how the Oregon mascot, very clearly coded male, no corkscrew situation. They've decided to just do away with that,
like
which makes them
situation.
Yeah, cowards is an institution, I think. Add the corkscrew, Oregon, cowards. If you're going to be the Ducks, be the Ducks.
I wonder if Sparty has a corkscrew. I guess, let me just say this, though.
Does he have like a cot piece, or he's got like a little bit of it? He's got like a skirt.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And that's, I'm just wondering how Jonathan Smith is going to feel. I mean, did Oregon hold to him what Michigan holds to us?
We talked about this in the beginning of the season.
If
this is his in-state rivalry, if this is his Roman Empire situation, I get the feeling listening to him that he's pretty even keeled, maybe even robotic about this type of stuff. But this is the time to go unhinged, Jonathan. Let's see it.
Interesting to know. Just looking this up right now, though not officially recognized by the universities, the Platypus Trophy is awarded annually to the winning team's alumni association, the Oregon State Oregon rivalries. So the Platypus Trophy. So maybe the Corkscrew Trophy, Oregon, Michigan State. Let's have it.
Between ducks, beavers, and platypi, where are you? Which is your favorite of these animals?
Well, after today, God knows it's not the duck.
Right.
It's probably the beaver. It might be the platypus. I know that's like our only like marsupial in North America. Isn't that right?
I thought it was mammal that lays eggs.
Is that what it is? Is that it? Okay, I knew there was something there. The beaver. It's a great tail, big teeth. They chew wood.
They build dams. That's metal.
It's just kind of fun. I mean, that's pretty great. I think that's got to be the answer.
Okay.
All right.
Shall we take some Twitter questions then, Mr. Plum?
We should. And we should just remind listeners, if you aren't engaging with us on Twitter, on x.com, as it were, we can't blame you. Elon Musk is an absolute sociopath and probably the Antichrist. So no problem there. We got a lot of folks who've just hitting us up on email now. And so you are welcome to email us at can'tread.can'twrite1855@gmail.com. Go ahead and throw your questions in there. We check that email religiously. We don't reply to it, but we do check it with some frequency.
I do think it's funny how technology is cyclical in this way, because when I listen to the impact here on campus, it used to be in our time, they were like, us, hit us up on AIM. And then after that, it was like, hit us up on Kick. And then after that, it was like, hit us up on Bulwarch or whatever the next thing was. And we're all the way back around again to texting and email at the impact.
100%.
And so we are here as well. So first up from Raymond Chains, this week in Spartan Nation, Aiden Childs with a Z accused local sports podcaster Max Drum of leaving messages that were by turns, quote, berating and pornographic. Allegations are denied by members of, quote, Can't Stream Right podcast. During Mark D'Antonio's award presentation, Hondo inartfully asks, quote, as nice as this is, does it feel a little weird knowing that you're responsible for the mess we have right now? Coach Smith wraps up the debacle with the quickest press conference in program history. Quote, we've made a bit of progress, but we still suck ass. Have a good weekend.
Next question. Next question. That's good.
This is a good episode.
Well, I mean, listen, don't give Max Drum people's phone numbers, and Max Drum won't place phone calls. How's that?
Yeah, don't let Max Drum get into the rum and cokes and the Dolly Parton.
And Dolly Parton. It won't happen. Okay, it won't happen.
That's an inside joke right there.
Yeah, sorry, folks. Next up from Raymond, Kevin, why was this game streamed and not just broadcast on network television? Why did the bar we went to, only half an hour from Columbus, have 5 other games on, some with volume, and one awkwardly placed screen silently streaming the mostly interesting first half of MSU versus Ohio State? Also, my wife and I made reservations. Why didn't we get a table? Why don't you kids get off my stoop? I'm calling the cops.
As a dink, presumably, I am with Raymond on this one. This shall not stand. Unnamed restaurant, 30 minutes from Columbus. This is weird because I just saw a lot of people from Columbus, and I would have thought that game would be on and that everyone would be watching it. The answer, though, the most direct answer is money, of course.
Money, please.
They want your Peacock subscription dollars, and thus there's another thing for you to subscribe to. And we're starting to accept it. This is the first time we've complained about this. Last year we complained about it a lot. Now we're in a gas leak situation where we've just sort of accepted it. How about you? I mean, you had to stream this on the Cock, right? I mean, how were you feeling as you were watching this game?
I didn't really. I mean, it was on. We were at a party. It was watched at the party. It was on. I could walk away from it. I could scream into the night. I punched a pregnant person, pushed them down the stairs. It's not important who got punched or where.
You were just getting ready for the Ducks next week. That was all part of you gearing up.
So yeah, fuck the Peacock, fuck NBC, and just F it all. Last up from Raymond Gruch, again for you. I know you don't experience sentimentality and human emotions the same way as others. But if you were wealthy enough to ethically care for and house exotic animals, which species would it be? Personally, he is torn between gorillas and capybaras.
That's a good question. I would say I am taken. This might be an unpopular take. I'm impressed by the pangolin because they decided after being boiled and eaten in China for however long, they were going to strike back.
Yes.
And damned if they did not. Now, oh yeah, something, proof of stake, Wuhan, all that stuff. But the mighty pangolin perhaps was responsible for a global human pandemic that they did so out of revenge and spite. And for that, they have my respect.
Well done.
So I would do a pangolin sanctuary. Plum, anything that you would add to that?
Musk ox. Musk
a handsome animal and flannel.
Very much. Lot you can do with a musk ox, I think. Ride it. Maintain your yard, presumably. The yard's fence.
I think. Yeah. Like the way that a lot of people do with goats. Not a lot, but some.
The musk ox, much more efficient.
And it's a more dignified way of doing it. If you're going to have an animal be responsible for your lawn maintenance, muskox way better than goat.
Goats are stupid.
Next up from Nate C, and he did take advantage of all the characters allowed in email, by the way. Let's say you're up against a tough team and the game looks like it's getting away from you, and then the refs start missing obvious calls and making very questionable calls. Do you think each coach should have a quote missed or bad call count in their head? And after you surpass that and are already down in a game, you throw the towel and phone it in without caring?
Well, I think that already exists. I mean, I think that exists already. I don't know about the throw in the towel and phone it in. I mean, I have a memory. I do have a very distinct memory, and I had to have been 16 because I was driving. As a 16-year-old kid ref, working a boys travel game in Grand Blanc, Michigan, and the team came up from Metro Detroit, and they were late. They came to the game late, so the 6 o'clock kick or 4 o'clock kick or whatever, and they rolled in like at 4:05. And it was because they were blaming traffic. Traffic construction, and we're like, okay, well, how much time? Like, we need like 10 minutes to warm up. So we gave them 10 minutes to warm up. So we start 15, 20 minutes late. And as soon as we start, their players are just bonkers. I mean, they're just wild. So I'm like, I think I gave like 2 red cards in the first 5 minutes, which unheard of. And like, I'm like, I don't even know what's going on. I can't, I'm like trying to reason with them, but they're unreasonable. More to the point, though, they came not even with 11 players because there were still guys that had gotten either caught in traffic and the parents went home. So I'd given 2 red cards and it was like, you're down to 7. And in soccer, if you drop below 7,
don't have a team.
It doesn't continue below 7. And so on that second red card, we might have been 5, 10 minutes. I mean, it was so early in the game. The coach was like, nope, we're going home. This referee's, he's got the fixes in. He's rooting for the other team. He's fucked us. Like, just in the coach is on the field screaming at his players to come off, and they're screaming back at him, fuck you, get off the field. We're here. We're playing the game. And I'm like, well, no, you're not anymore.
No, you're not. You don't have
a team. You're actually done now because now the coach has come onto the field and has announced your intention to resign the game. So I fucking abandoned the match. Anyway, apropos of nothing, it was the only time in my career where I was almost assaulted. Well, I was assaulted, but like by a coach, never. But he like stood over me, like glaring and kind of like clenching his fist, and I was like,
"Is this a reference to when you took one off the noggin?"
I did get that. That was in the Hispanic League, and I'd already attained the age of majority. So,
do these people know about that video that does exist out there?
I don't actually know. That's a very good question.
Do you want to tell them about it?
No, but I will another time. I think I'm going to save that for another time. It's a good story. Okay. It's also a very good story.
And it's a better video. I've seen it. Nate C, because you're still here. You're still with us.
Well, for now, I mean, I don't have the CTE yet, but give it time.
Yeah.
So anyway, sorry, Nate. That was about me and not about your question. I think that I mean, if you really felt like you were getting homered, I guess that is the last thing you get to do. But God, you got to be right. You know what I mean? Like, you've got to be right because it's a terrible look. And everyone will then be against you when you do that. No one is going to stand with you if you kind of pull that shit.
He continues, if coaches started to do that, would it change the game enough that we might actually see improvement with the refs?
Unfortunately, no. And this is, I will say this about referee, you know, when I would referee in the ACC, at least, if you fucked up a call, you got a letter in the mail from the ACC announcing that you fucked up. That they had
is it on letterhead and then it's like
yes
attention and Alex Plum.
I never got one, but I wasn't working middles in the ACC, so I don't think they cared as much about the ARs. But I saw one that a guy who refereed with me in Georgia got, and he had made a penalty kick, and it was the wrong call, and the ACC sat him 2 games, and they said his name was Paul Tamburino was the assigner, but so Paul will be getting in touch with you, and you'll be your schedule will reflect your next 2 games. You will be docked because of that decision. So my point is the coaches in the ACC and their this letter, by the way, came from the commissioner of the ACC. It didn't come from the assigner, which is unusual. And this was back then, but the coaches in the league got together and they said, this is it. You're going to hold us accountable. And we're paying you big money to do these games. We're going to expect you to be flawless. And if you aren't within a certain margin, there will be a repercussion. So
there will be issues.
So I would say that's the answer to this. It's not throwing in the towel. The Big Ten has all of the tools at its disposal. They can absolutely come together with that. And that they probably have. I'm assuming that's the way that they deal with this is they rate and provide feedback to the officials, and the good ones get promoted and stay up, and the bad ones get onto some list. They don't make postseason, and then they're out. So
consequences will be created and enforced. Nate C is still on the refs, asking, should we allow the refs to participate in NIL?
Again, I know that's not a serious question. The answer, of course, to that, though, is yes.
Then he's got bonus, allowed schools to pull their money. Can we then repurpose that money into research and scholarships? The crux of this is that Natesy hates, quote, that we spend so much money on football when we all know that it will never be enough to buy us a national championship. At this point, we are just spending money so that other schools with a little bit more money can claim they won a national championship. It's a pyramid scheme. I don't really know how to describe it, but it sucks.
Well, he said, but it's fucked and it sucks. And to that point, he's right. I'll say, and I think that's what we've been talking about on this podcast. The challenge that the game is changing in such a way that this sort of like, hail alma mater kind of thing is slipping away from us. And when that is gone, then I'm fully on board, Nate, with you. Then nothing matters anymore.
Couple notes on this. One, I saw that Mark Dell on Twitter posted about with the D'Antonio stuff happening that he was like, college football as I knew it and participated in it is dead. All the guys now will have multiple schools that they've gone to, and they're kind of mercenaries. They're guns for hire at this point in many cases. There are exceptions to that. There's your Maverick Hansons, for example, that's been with the program since D'Antonio.
Yep.
So I will say I'm with you on that, Nate C. But on the other side, I do think that there were some D'Antonio, if we're sticking with this D'Antonio train of thought, there's some D'Antonio era teams that would have greatly benefited from the playoff as it is starting to exist. Like, could have made some real noise, could have won some stuff.
Yep.
And I will be interested to see what ends up happening with the playoff if it can't benefit the perceived top teams any more than the BCS did. The BCS was like, basically we're handpicking the top brands to play. And if you're not one of the top brands, you're not going to participate in this.
Yep.
Now the playoff is we're handpicking teams that we like that at least get in the door. And I think that will open up some possibilities, but I could be proven wrong.
I think that's right. Yep, I think that's right. Well said.
Jess Sipperly is out for blood on Twitter.
Good for her.
Good for her. She asks, what's your least favorite thing about Jonesy?
Oh, what is
How
my
much time do we have?
I don't know. There's so many.
A 5-hour episode? Is that what this is?
I don't know what one did I choose?
Yeah. We could do like a survivor round. Like we create a bunch of things that we all agree we hate about Jonesy, and then we vote one off until there's like the nugget of the thing that we hate the most about him.
I think that's right. I'm gonna choose his earnestness. He really likes this podcast, and I think it makes me sick. You know? I mean, I saw him once ignore his child just so that he could be prepared for this podcast.
I saw him push his child away from the face onto the floor.
Yes, onto the floor.
And then ignore the crying and the wailing.
The screaming.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was violent. But again, earnest. So I don't know.
But as a dink, it didn't bother me, and I didn't say anything.
I wasn't personally affronted, of course.
Yeah.
But just in a more socio-political kind of way.
Right.
Kevin, what would you say are his least favorite things? Jess asks about each of us.
Our lack of earnestness.
That was going to be mine. 100%. The fact that Plum is on his phone regularly while we're recording.
Sometimes I'm surprised that he wants this on YouTube so much, because it means you can see the look on his face when he's like, You're not holding up your end of the bargain on this.
You're not even here. Are you you're physically here, barely?
Maybe that's what it is. He wanted all of you to see that he's on your side.
That's it. Yep. He wanted it to be self-evident how much I was failing. That's
I
not
thought
unfair.
we would keep that in the family, but he was like, no, let them see.
He was right. He was right to do this. Yep.
Next up from Beth Amaro.
Hey, Beth.
Beth, Greg, can we see the puppy? Pretty please. We need a smile. Oh, Beth, that's very
Send
kind of
some
you.
pictures out.
He has been barking. I don't know if this is shown up
Just
on the
once.
recording.
Yep, just once, I think.
Okay,
Yep.
my bad.
Old Walter.
It sounds like it's not a great time to bring Walter into the room, which actually this is a room he's not allowed in yet because of all of the stuff. We've got all of our things.
So you're allowing Lil Walter upstairs though? This is a decision you've made.
He's earning rooms in the house. This was a recommendation from the piece of paper that the Humane Society gave us where they were like, congratulations, you bought a dog from us.
You have a dog.
And he has not earned all of the rooms upstairs yet, but he does stay with us in the crate.
All right.
Where are you with Yali? Yali doesn't go upstairs, right?
Yali doesn't go upstairs.
Is a downstairs dog.
We have a baby gate at the bottom of the stairs. Yali is not allowed upstairs. Jason is a saint. I should name that first, just for the record. And he is very meticulous about keeping the home organized and clean. I've tried to clean, and then he cleans behind me. So
it's not up to his standards.
Not nearly enough. So I've stopped trying. I take care of the outside of the house, but so we've got division of labor, I think. And he refuses to sweep Yali fur upstairs. And I can't blame him for that decision. I, in fact, endorse it. So no, that's why the pod doesn't get to see as much Yali. And that's too bad because in the early days of our recording at my last abode, Yali featured prominently, at least on our shared video screen. When we zoom
and also the squeaking that would take place.
Let's not recall that together. Let's choose not to recall that. Yep.
Next up from Beth, share some of Plum's most off the rails texts from yesterday. We all need to laugh. I think, Beth, you can be forgiven for expecting that to be true.
Yes.
Truly, and we haven't talked about this, the most off the rail stuff, and I think it's because he knew he wasn't going to be on this podcast, is from our host, which he said some things at the Aiden Childs unconverted fourth down, which I think would get us removed from polite society.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm not exaggerating here. It was vile.
I'm looking at it right
in
here.
Front of you?
Yeah, it is I actually don't think I can read this. I think this might be too bad for me to read.
It was a lot. I think the thing that we can say that's like
that was not safe.
The most watered down is no, that won't.
Nope. Can't read that either.
Do.
Yeah, this
None
is
of
not
this
good.
Will do.
No.
He said at the Glover touchdown, Glover being back mattered. And that was true. That was a good, quick out.
Was that the kind of funny that you were looking for, Beth? I'm sorry. I actually wasn't texting them last night because I was at a neighborhood party where I chose instead to drink copious amounts of rum and scream loudly in ways that were disruptive to the vast majority of the attendees. And I was asked at multiple points to please stop doing that.
Very good. Again, Dink Life. Next up from @Tim_NBA.
Hey, Tim Nibba.
Tim Nibba. Childs has the highest turnover-worthy play rate of any power conference QB with 1 every 11 throws. And yes, I believe an extension of this is Pro Football Focus, which comes with an asterisk, has rated him as like 8 turnover-worthy passing attempts a game. That was before the Ohio State game, which hasn't been rated yet.
Oh my God.
He's turnover prone. We kind of knew that, but it is jarring to see the numbers, wouldn't you say?
It's not good, and it is bad. Yep, it is absolutely not good, and it is very, very bad.
Yeah, if there's one thing I like about data, it's data that confirms my priors, and this is one of those. Next up from Tim Nibba. Hopefully that improves throughout the year. What average rate would you want to see over the last 4 to 5 games of the year to feel good? I think Tim Nibba is expecting a measured and serious answer, but I don't think we're going to offer him one here. I think we'd be like,
I wouldn't.
Never throw an interception again, you idiot.
You dumb idiot. Yep.
Yeah. Next up from Amopoleaf, is 11 p.m. too late to start watching a Big Ten game? Plum.
No, I don't think so. I think that, I mean, it is if you don't want to go to bed, right?
This Saturday night, and everyone that matters has 2 incomes and no kids.
No kids. So yeah, stay up. Just do it. Just drink
Yeah.
more. You're gonna like
And also, those Pac-12 games are awesome, and now they're Big Ten games. So, welcome to the conference. This is the thing that I'm most interested in.
Yeah.
I think more of this, please.
Yeah.
Next, well, not for my team though, because it seems like a massive disadvantage if you're from the East Coast and you go play at 11 p.m. Next up from Monopoly, if D'Antonio would have said that it was a game, if D'Antonio would have said it was a game of inches, which he did a lot, he did. Then would you describe Saturday's game as a game of question mark?
Fathoms? Can I say fathoms? Is that the right word to use?
I think it's been fathoms in the past. Now it's like yards, or meters or something like that, or decameters or
decameters. That's great. That's really
it was. I think we agree. I think it was closer at times than it has been in the past. And there is room to be encouraged by that. Next up from Beppe Plum, reacting to the announcement that Jonesy will not be here. Oh, yes. Just general excitement. Next up from Beppe Plum, MSU will be very good soon. Horst is still the Duke of Dingleberries, but the freshman from MSU is a disgrace. The cheap shots and pushing after plays makes me hate him even more than Max Christie and Bryn Forbes in a face matchup. While I got so close to being Ron Burgundy. Right there.
I am in love with this.
Wait, I can do this. To being duck reproductive.
Yes,
Brad Davidson with a piano.
Now you know.
Now you know.
Well, good for you. Good for you, Beppe. You really did go full unhinged. And you're right. I don't know who you're talking about because Ohio State is useless to me. But if it brought you to Max Christie / Bryn Forbes face mashup, that is opprobrium that I'm not sure I've even neared. Well done, you.
Can you imagine those two? Next up, Jason Nick, the other host of The Couch in the Room, says college refs are ass. This weekend may have been one of the worst. So many games with awful calls. Maybe we can get ChatGPT to start calling games. Heck, I even trust Horst at this point. Yeah. I think poor reffing is worse than the NII, and I guess this is NIL holdouts at this point.
I don't know. I mean, again, these guys are graded. What are you going to say? It's early in the season. I don't know what you blame this on. I don't know if they've had a lot of retirees. I just don't know. I don't know.
Next up from Kate Wall, who is continuing this bit and doing a spectacular job of it. The all bucket starting five, not necessarily about shooters, but guys you trust to get one in any situation. The trouble here is that we're going to put guys like Cassius and Kalen Lucas up next to one another.
Right.
And it's going to be hard to do that. I would also put end of his career Bryn Forbes on that list. I would put Denzel Valentine on that list.
Joey Hauser wet haze season. Only the wet haze season, though.
Yeah. Yep. And also you've got to have Travis Trice was really feeling it at the end of his career.
I agree. Yep.
Do we honorarily put a guy like Kenny Goins on this list for hitting that massive bucket against Duke?
Yep.
I mean, that was
that's true. That you have to.
You talk about all bucket.
Maybe he's honorary captain of that team. I don't know. Of that bucket squad.
Let me ask you this. Who
big decision.
Big men wise, because we've had some not great big men.
Yep.
Who's your bucket five? Mine, I guess, would be like a Xavier Tillman.
Okay.
In the big spot. That might be my choice. Do you have someone better than that?
Goran Sutan.
Okay.
Probably not.
All right.
Probably not. Paul Davis.
I mean,
Paul Davis?
Goran Sutan had that, like, he had his back to the basket moves that were really solid, especially at the end of his career.
Yep.
Paul Davis, I just remember his learning disabilities. I don't remember his play, actually.
Oh, my God. My Lord.
But he overcame all of those. He's a hero.
Proud of him.
I mean, for our time, for what we've watched, Gary Harris, maybe a name.
Harry Garris. I like
Gary.
Harry Gary Barry McLary.
There are guys that like turned into buckets.
Yeah.
That weren't in their time here. I think JJJ is a good example of that. Though he's still kind of known more primarily as a defensive guy.
Yeah.
Zach Randolph, that kind of thing. But that's going to be my name list. Well done, Kate. Well done, you. This is probably the best of all time segment fishing that we've ever experienced.
I'm not upset. Well done.
Next from Kate, do you think Southerners are still being nice to Peyton Thorne? I'm sure Auburn fans would be very reasonable about a game losing pick 6. Well, we know that they're not. We know this. This is documented. The honeymoon's over for Peyton Thorne and for Auburn fans, for that matter. Next up from Thomas Ambiasi, I agree with the takes I've seen floating around that the team will beat someone they're not supposed to. Who's it going to be? Well, let me ask you this. Who are the teams that we're not supposed to beat yet?
Maybe Michigan. I mean, Michigan, right?
And Oregon.
Penn State.
Penn State's not on the schedule this year.
Very good. So then not them.
Are we playing Purdue? Iowa for homecoming.
I think we could beat Iowa.
Is that a game we're supposed to win?
Yeah, I think so.
What about a ranked Illinois team on the road? Is that a game
I still think that's a game we're supposed to win. If we're in a place where we're not able to be expected to beat Illinois, we're fucked.
I think this team has a real shot in Ann Arbor. I think it does. I think the things that they do well kind of align with the things that we do well, which will give us an opportunity. I think this game should win against Iowa for homecoming. I think this game is going to knock off Windiana, or this team is going to knock off Windiana, and it's going to obviously trounce Purdue. I am a little bit worried about going on the road to Illinois, but I would put that in that Maryland, Boston College type game, and those are games that we have and should have won. So this has been a downer episode, but I think there's a lot for us to still look forward to with this program. Next up from Thomas, did the QBs listen to the pod and make a point to disprove the takes on who would have won the BC game?
Wow. Yes, no, I don't know. I mean, it didn't listen to anything. I mean, there was no real progress. It was more of the same. Did we get what's his ass in at all in this game? Did he play it all in the fourth quarter?
No, he did not. So Tommy Schuster. No.
Yeah, poor Tom was just sitting there like, how long are you going to let him keep corkscrewing himself? Do I just don't exist? Okay, all right, I guess so. I don't know. But it's a good question, Thomas. Also, Thomas, you and I got to talk offline. Got a question for you about Mary Zambiasi. All right, more to follow.
Ooh,
yeah, more to follow.
Intrigue.
All right.
You want to take this next one?
I do. Mike Jones asks of you, Kevin Grooch, what Spartan legend did you name your new dog after? I took Tuck, so don't even think about stealing that one. Also, what kind of dog?
Well, obviously, you have to name your dog after an MSU legend, and I chose in this case Walt Drenith, track and field coach. As you would, of course. So Walter is named for him, or maybe Distinguished Professor Emeritus of Physics and Astronomy Walter Benson, or maybe MSU Department of History Professor Walter Hawthorne, or maybe all of them.
Wow.
Who knows? But Walter definitely named after an MSU legend, any of these. Maybe Walter Adams. Walter Adams. Maybe that you could say that's a real one, because that's a good name. Are you familiar with the story from Walter Adams?
I'm not. Please tell me.
If I'm not mistaken, Walter Adams was the president that took over after John Hanna left the institution after the whole Michigan State government thing happened with Vietnam. And he wrote a book that I have meant to read and never did, because I can't, obviously. So yes, named for Walter Adams and all those other dudes that I said before.
Very good.
I did also consider Melvin, of course. Next up from Mike Jones, 3-0 with 10 plus penalties and 0-2 now without. I'm not saying I have a recipe to success, but it sure seems like the proof is in the pudding.
It's just excellent. It's just excellent.
What are we complaining about them? We were fools, Plum. We were fools.
The problem is
penalties.
We're too busy hurting ourselves. And I think that's the real challenge here. If we could just get out of our own way, maybe something nice could happen. So
I love this next question. If this was Twitter ranking season, this next one from Joe Ashworth would win. From Joe, does Plume study Donald Trump's speaking cadence in his spare time? Or is the similarity in how they rant and ramble purely coincidental?
All right, so I'm demented. That's nice. Just very thoughtful of you, Joe. Really, really thank you. Is that the cadence? I don't know. Do I have the cadence? I do ramble. I'm a rambler.
We hate they have their corkscrew situation. We hate them.
They're not very good. They're not sending their best.
Oh, the Ducks. Oh, they're awful, the Ducks.
Those corkscrew situations. I don't even know they're bleeding out of their wherevers.
Joe, that might explain why the podcast tends to go about 2 hours long. Next up from Ali, first, an ACL injury update. My doctor says my knee is excellent and ahead of schedule. I shouldn't take that as an excuse to do something I shouldn't. That's right. Be measured. It's a journey, Ali. Glad to hear that you're on the mend. Despite the football team appearing ahead of schedule, why were some of the fan base dumb enough to believe that we could win?
That's a question. I think I know what he's talking about. Whoever runs Spartan Wire or Spartan Nation or whatever the hell that idiotic Spartan Wire, maybe is that the Twitter account? I don't know. I think that's who you're talking about. And I probably got the wrong account, but they don't actually think that. They just want engagement. So no one actually thought we were going to win this game. So let's not confuse engagement and clicks and ad rev with actual prognostication.
Yep.
Okay. Next up from Ali, Kevin. Ali says, I'm going to the Oregon game. Is that dumb on my part?
Well, I hope you feel differently now that you know all these things about Ducks that you've been educated on now.
So good.
We were considering, I don't know, Plum, were you actually considering going to the Oregon game?
Never.
We talked about it.
We did talk about it very briefly in a way that was very non-committal.
Yeah. I heard that it was hard to get to, and I also didn't expect to win the game, so I decided not to. But someone has to be there, Ali, and I'm glad it's you. Just be less mobile in your tailgating, because that's what we should be doing when we've got 2 incomes and no kids. And finally, from Ali, what is your favorite thing about Jonesy? For me, it's that he sounds exactly like what you would think a 5'5" Irish American guy would sound like. Is that
rich?
Is he an Irish? Does he have Irish lineage?
I mean, Michael, I didn't think so, but
I have never talked to him about this.
Just incredible. I mean,
I kind of know his family background.
Yeah, I don't
a fair amount, and I don't remember Irish ever coming up.
Presbyterian, maybe, but I don't know about Irish.
Anyway, the question is, what's your favorite thing about Jonesy? Are we going to end this on like a sincere note?
I don't know.
Are we going to ruin the whole podcast?
Also, 5'5" is going to absolutely send him through the fucking ceiling. So that's really rich. And I don't know why we didn't start there, but that is beautiful. That is really
it's because
beautiful.
I don't
And
actually,
that might be my favorite thing about him is that he's 5'5". I
Yeah.
just always respected that about him.
how much he's been
height.
able to accomplish at only 5'5" has been
Siring children, no less,
Mhm.
or child. So good for him.
Mhm.
Good for him.
Good for him. So, Plum, not good for the Spartans this week, though, as discussed, maybe there is one or two things that we can learn from this game. Any final words before we get ready for the corkscrew fouls?
I don't think so. I think we are not going to win this game. That's okay. I would love this to be a Nick Saban moment for Jonathan L. Smith. I added the L there, and let's lean into it. Let's see what we can do, but no interceptions, please. Can we just do one thing? I mean, maybe he'll be great. He's going back to Oregon. Maybe he plays well in Oregon. I don't know. Aiden, can you do one thing for me, my guy? That's all.
Work on that ratio, bud. Work on that ratio.
That's all you got to do.
All right. Plum, it's been a pleasure. It's been one of our, I think, best episodes of all time.
Certainly of the year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And go green, sir.
Go white.